3 years later, it's Fox's first NASCAR Cup points race. You're on the call, and of course, that is the day of the fatal crash for Dale Earnhardt Sr. Was that the hardest day of your career?
It was one of them. It was certainly one of them. We'd been in this position before, on radio and on TV, of having. I mean, it's Hemingway said there's only three real sports, where man exposes himself to incredible danger to try to achieve amazing rewards: mountain climbing, bullfighting, auto racing. We know the risks. We all accept the risks, and every driver out there says it can't happen to me. And then it happened to Earnhardt. Well, in the moment, we had no confirmation, no information at all from the accident scene or from NASCAR or from the Speedway. They went completely dark on us. We knew something bad had happened. We knew, and I knew from various experiences, that either Earnhardt, on the one hand, could have been superficially injured and had a bleeding wound and knocked unconscious. And we knew, on the other hand, this could be very serious, and had to strike a tone that was cautious yet hopeful. Because, as our longtime producer Barry Landis always said, at that point, you're working for the family, and you're working for the friends of that driver, and you're trying to make this all work and make sense of it all. What I knew in my gut was that here's a driver who at one point flipped down the back straightaway, got out of his car, says, I think it'll run, jumps back in it, gets a push start, comes back to the pits, they tape it up, and he finishes the race. I knew if there was any possible way, Dale Earnhardt would have climbed in the driver's seat of that ambulance himself and driven it to victory lane to congratulate Michael Waltrip winning the race in his car, with Dale Jr. finishing second. So we pretty well assumed the gravity of what was going on, but we had no real information to go by. That made it more difficult to properly frame the moment. And we went off the air with congratulations to Michael Waltrip and prayers for Dale Earnhardt, because that was all we could do. And I think that was the most difficult part of it. And NASCAR, like other sports, like the NFL found out a year or so ago, that they don't have a plan for this. And informing their TV partners is not part of their plan, which is to get through the event and get through the calamity and make the best sense of it as possible. So we're on our own, and we're kind of flying without a net there, and trying to do the best we can for the family, the friends, the viewers, and the sport. It is both difficult, painful, and an incredible challenge. And I hope that day we did it well enough.
Yeah. How do you balance those emotions? Because, like you said, Michael Waltrip won the race. You have his brother Dale on the broadcast. It's an exciting finish. It's a great storyline, but that uncertainty with Dale Sr. How do you balance that? Do you just trust your gut in that moment?
We all did. Larry McReynolds, Darrell Waltrip, and I. Darrell would go, "Oh, Mikey's won the race," and then he turns, he goes, "Gosh, I hope Dale's okay." And during the break, I assured him, "Okay, we'll wait for word, and hopefully it's positive." But I really think at that point, your ability as a news hawk kicks in, and it's all right. Tell the story, get it right. Don't speculate, but let people know what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're thinking. But be guarded until you have concrete information. That's what we're trained to do. And then the emotions get to you of what could possibly have happened there, and how it could have been caused, and who, if anyone, was at fault. And that becomes difficult. You just have to rise above that and stay with the story, and help it along as the story develops. It's not fun, but
Do
it's
you
a big part of what we have to do sometimes.
do you know if Dale Jr. was interviewed after the race there on the track, or was he immediately ushered away from any media responsibilities to get an update on his father?
My recollection was that he went to victory lane to congratulate Michael, and that someone whispered in his ear, and he was ushered away after
Okay.
that. But I'd have to look at the tape to
Yeah.
guarantee
Yeah,
it.
I'm
I do
not sure.
know
I'm just curious.
Michael Waltrip, in his book, which I think is titled "In the Blink of an Eye," is that right? Yes, says that Ken Schrader came to victory lane, and Michael asked him, "How's Dale?" Because Michael knew that Dale had crashed.
Yeah.
He had been told, and Schrader told him, "It's not good." Michael went, "Okay," and did what he had to do to complete all of his commitments there. But yeah, very, very difficult day. Probably the hardest in motorsports in a long, long time, because after that, everybody started questioning everything because they knew if it could happen to Dale, it could happen to anybody.
Right.
In the aftermath of that, we've had tremendous advances in driver safety, in the driver compartment, in NASCAR, which previously left driver safety up to the driver, finally taking a leadership role in the development of safer cars and safer barriers around the racetrack, so that the sport we have today is way, way safer than the sport that Dale raced in.